this to the stream. So we have some photos, and I'm going to disappear now. You'll all see me, and also Chris is going to disappear because I'm going to put us onto full screen. Right, if you want me to zoom into a certain one, Chris, just shout.
Might as well start with those top ones. So that top one, those top two, basically, that was 5 minutes from arriving in Batanta. I was welcomed with some kids, and one of the hunters, and Nerdin was like, he's got a McRae in that bag. I was like, excuse me? He's like, yeah, I think there's 2 in that bag, actually. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, well, that's the trip sort of almost successful already, and I've been off the boat for 5 minutes. So yeah, that's a couple of McRae there as soon as I got off the boat. Unfortunately, on the other side of things, that is what they're being kept in for up to 2 weeks, sometimes before they're even exported to Sarong. So every time I'm going over there now, it's sort of trying to make them, keep them a bit better. Like I said, in a bag for 2 weeks like that with no water sometimes is not good. You can see why they come in sort of so emaciated when they get to us.
Yeah, you're trying to how are you trying to educate that? Are you basically leaning it towards them? It's more money for them if the animals are healthier, or?
Yeah, I mean, they actually, the big thing what I really want to get over, they actually do care about the lizards. Or for the guys that I met were super passionate. I was showing them pictures of the lizards we kept and bred. I showed them some of Julian's McRae babies, and they were just almost a tear in their eye. They don't actually, or they didn't realize these lizards they catch would go all the way to England, America, and all these other places. They sort of see it as it stops in Sarong, and that's as far as they really thought about it. And then showing them these pictures of the eggs and all the rest of it actually got them excited. They're like, maybe we can actually start getting some and breeding them, and you could help me breed them, which would be an amazing thing, really. I know they've done it with a few other species. If you can actually start breeding them in situ, I mean, that's like a dream, really. But yeah, they do care about them, but there's just no education. I mean, that lizard to them is money that they can't get anywhere else. Apart from that, in that village, like I said, the options are like logging, which is illegal, and then they're living off the land, so they're sort of catching fish and stuff for food. So if someone's going to come and give them, to us it's £30, to them it's a vast amount of money. That's going to last them 2-3 months from just one lizard. So it's hard. You just got to keep going over there and picking away at it, really. Like I said, they've got this passion, or a few of them definitely had this passion of wanting to keep them better. And then they were sort of getting the idea of, I was like, just don't try and collect them from the same area. If you could just make it more sustainable by moving locations, I know it's going to be a bit more cost for you guys to take the boat a bit further, but you're not going to wipe out that population. And then unfortunately, the older guys that used to be the McRae hunters are like, yeah, we're scared that our grandchildren aren't going to get to see these anymore. We can remember when they were in Amdui, their village, just in the trees, and they've seen the decline. But like I said before, it's easy for me to go over there and just say, oh yeah, you need to stop collecting these lizards, and they're just like, well, this is the only way we can make some extra money to feed our families, so you can't take that away from them. It just needs to be more sustainable. And like I said, if more people do sort of trips over there, I mean, the whole of Raja Ampat has got some endemic bird species, birds of paradise, and people are paying thousands and thousands of pounds to go over there and photograph these birds of paradise, and they make good businesses. They set up homestays where people, you can see the red bird of paradise here, you can see the other ones over here, and then it brings people to their village. Everyone sort of benefits from them because they're buying food from the village, cigarettes, whatever else it is, and then that's the way they'll start protecting the lizards, because they want more people to come over there. Unfortunately, because it's a lizard maybe, and it's not as popular as like the birding community, people just haven't started doing it. But I think that'll change. Like I said, I'm trying to be pretty open, help get people over there, set something up with the guys over there to start doing it. And then, like I said, me and Ben were talking about getting help from the government over there to sort of set stuff up like they have with the birds of paradise, and sort of get that ecotourism going for them.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, a lot of people, I know Dylan from Animals at Home talks about this a lot, but I think a lot of times people assume that these guys on the ground are monsters and they're trapping these animals. But if you put yourself in their shoes, like you say, if all of a sudden you can catch this lizard that's just in your back garden, you're going to get paid 3 months worth of work.
Yeah,
like for them, it's like a no-brainer. And
for us to go over there and take it away from them is just insane. It's just, you can't do it.
But it wouldn't happen. And yeah, go on.
And like I said, my view before I went over there was we've had enough blue tree monitors come out of the wild, 3,000 in 10 years or whatever the number is. We need to stop now. There's enough. I think we've had enough of a chance to sort of establish bloodlines and get them breeding over here. Luckily, in the last few years, that is happening more and more, which is good. But I don't want to see these guys sort of be without any money. So you need to give them another option. You can't just go over there and say, stop collecting lizards. They'll just be like, what do you mean? You need to be like, can you stop collecting lizards? Because I'm going to get more people to come over and see them, and you can take them out and make your money that way. But, all it is to them is money, unfortunately. They care about the lizards for sure to a certain point, but if it's between the lizards and their family, like anyone, which one are you going to choose?
Family, yeah. And like you say, it's not their job to stop collecting. It's almost us as a hobby's job to turn around and give them the alternative.
Yeah. That's what I mean. There was like when I first went over there, it was like I wish they would just stop because we've got enough. I still believe we've got enough in captivity to start these lines going up. The guilt sort of come in is because these sort of people become my friends, and like Nerdin's my family now. That you can't just take an income away from them. You got to sort of, you feel obligated to educate them in the best way you can to sort of preserve it over there. But there needs to be another option. Unfortunately, money comes down to it because apart from the lizards in that particular village, they're not getting any extra income. And then the other source of income that they could possibly get is logging, which they were big into, which would be detrimental, just not just the blue tree monitors, but everything over there. Yeah. So.
Well, it's like us. Like if we're employed and we get let go unjustly, we get redundancy money. We're paid in compensation. So we can't expect them to just quit their job and then absolutely have nothing like back, you know?
Yeah, like I said to them, they're teetering on the edge. If they make them CITES 1 tomorrow, then that's going to be gone to them anyway. So it'd be nice to get something set up as a contingency plan. I think the big pipe dream would be getting bred in situ, so they could still get an income from the lizards that way, or even better for me and probably everyone else listening would be people going over there and then just leaving them in the wild completely. That picture you just scroll down to there, Paul, is literally that one that come out of the sack. So you can see how happy I was. Again, that was 5 to 10 minutes from stepping on batanta. So that was sort of mission success already. Yeah.
Well, literally, like you say, you get there and you're like, right, these animals are probably really rare. Looks like it's a young male, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you can see that. But you must be like, I don't know if we're going to find any. So, oh, hello, Mr. McRae.
I was just gobsmacked. I mean, a little bit of backstory. We got the boat from Waigeo to Batanta, and it was super overcast. And me being stupid Englishman, didn't put any sunscreen on, didn't wear a hat, thought it was completely fine because there was a nice cool breeze going there. When we stopped in Batanta, I had full on sunstroke. I've got sunstroke there in that picture, and quickly put my hat on, as you can see, once we'd stopped. So I was feeling pretty rubbish at that point anyway. So it was a nice little pick me up. But yeah.
You got the blue ready to get the blues.
Yeah, and blue glasses as well, because everything was blue, and a blue bag actually.
I mean, there's a song in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So is this where you were living, in little tents like this?
Yeah, so with my sunstroke and my shell shock from that first lizard, that's the boat that I rented on the right-hand side there. That was the sort of boat for the whole trip. We had a captain and like a first mate basically, but that's what I hired, and that's the one we had to go across sort of open ocean to get to Batanta. It was a good boat, to be fair, when everything was calm. It became a bit scary when things got a bit choppy. And then that one on the left is the tent setup. So the guys themselves have got particular routes set up. This was one of the areas that was 5 minutes literally from Amdui, which is what I was saying before. They have become locally extinct in Amdui village. But if you move sort of 10 minutes boat ride to the right or left of the village, you're still finding the Macraei. And like I said, we just set up a camp basically. The guys actually had wooden huts. I think we've got a few pictures a bit later. Where the hunters stay when they go out on these missions to find the Macraei. They've got sort of different spots set up, and they've already cut a sort of route through the jungle. But me and Nerdin just had tents, and that was set up just there.
Yeah.
So this is a couple of hunters on the left there. That's Eddie, likes to be called. I was showing him Burns' book on tree monitors. That's the they were just mind blown. That was a really nice experience actually when I sort of first got there, got that book out, and their minds were literally blown. They were flicking through the book, naming all the different islands where they'd seen the different colors of tree monitors, and then when it got to like the eggs and stuff, they were just like, "Oh my god, we just like how." Why is this happening? Again, on the right, the guy on the floor, that's the first mate, and then it's the two hunters next to me. Those guys don't speak a word of English, which is fair enough. I'm sort of trying to learn some Indonesian now, so that's why you can't just go over there basically and just start doing your needs. Sort of that a guy that can translate for you and that's into reptiles helps as well.
Right, let's see what else we've got. I mean, I've flicked through these photos anyway, but already it looks amazing.
There's a few bugs for you there. So those millipedes on the left I couldn't believe how many there were. It's one of those things when I got there, the hunters pointed one out and they saw how like excited I was about it. And they were like, you could almost see them say, "Oh, you're going to get bored of that really quickly if that's."
Really?
Yeah, they were literally, honestly, by the end of it, I think we were seeing like 5 every sort of 2 steps. It was ridiculous. They are absolutely everywhere. Obviously, just living in that leaf litter. He was actually annoyed that one, so you can see the secretion coming out of it. I didn't hold any, but I'm told they're actually pretty nasty. And then on the right hand side, being in Australia, they've got ants of all different descriptions, pretty evil ones. And so I set the tent up, and within 5 minutes, found out I'd set it up right next to a load of leafcutter ants. So they were pretty good, to be fair, because it started raining almost all of a sudden, and all the ants sort of went into the top of the tent and actually left me completely alone, which I don't think the Australian ones would.
No. Oh man, there you go.
So again, that was just mine and Nerdin's tent on the left where we set up our first camp. And then the one on the right is the ones that the hunters have made just from local wood. They set up different camps basically for their different areas. I mean, it's pretty impenetrable most of Batanta because it's quite steep and obviously thick jungle. They make routes through, which is good for the macrae in some way because there's some areas I just don't think you'd be able to get to, and hopefully there's obviously the macrae staying in those sort of areas. But yeah, they've got these sort of makeshift huts, whatever you want to call them, set up.
Yeah. Dinner served.
Yeah, you've got to get pretty used to eating instant noodles and rice, and that's 3 times a day, which is okay for like the first 3 days, and then that really, really starts to grate on you, or me particularly. I didn't want to see another bit of rice or another noodle by the end of it. By the end, I was actually we went to another village in Waigeo, and I was like, is there anything else? And they were like, offered me sweet potatoes, just boiled sweet potatoes. I was like, yeah, I'll take that all day long. So I was living on sweet potatoes. I literally couldn't eat another piece of instant noodle rice. We actually got some eggs there as well. But yeah, that's the Indonesian, that's pretty staple, 3 times a day. Nasi goreng, which is like rice and egg every single day, every single meal, and they seem totally happy with it.
That's pretty much my diet. And chicken, but that is pretty much my diet. Obviously, and comfort like Lucozade and chocolate, but for the most part, chicken, rice, and egg is all I eat. Yeah. This is the clayey ground.
Yes, I've got a video on Instagram which people can have a look at where I've actually got a snake hook and I'm actually hitting the ground, but that is pretty much throughout Batanta, where it's not leaf litter or under the leaf litter, is that sort of ground. It's like this super hard clay that I just don't think the monitors can dig into. The crabs give it a go, where you get more near to the beaches and seas where they're living in it. It gets a bit softer there, but the eggs, because of the tide coming in, the eggs would just get completely flooded. So I just don't think they're just not as far as I think, they're not doing them in the ground sort of thing.
No. There you go.
Yeah, that was pretty standard. 92% radiant humidity, 27, 28 degrees Celsius was pretty much what it was the whole time I was there. Like I said, I've never been anywhere as humid. All my Australia trips have been, when you get sort of the Darwin and stuff, it gets pretty humid, but nothing like that. That was just insane. And just sweat, just constantly sweating. It's hard work. It's the hardest herping I've ever done. Has been in Batanta for sure.
Just a question on that, Hugh, relative to you, because I know we touched on it a little bit earlier. Yeah. Do you think these monitors are how can I word this? Do you think these monitors are loving this 92%, or do you think they hide away in little pockets at times, or do you think this is pretty much just their bread and butter?
I just don't think they can get away with it. It sways between, from what I can speak to Nerdin, and if you look on the weather apps, it's like 80 percent to 95, and then depending on the temperature, obviously, just goes up and down between that. But it's constant of like 80% humidity. There's no way of getting around it. They've obviously evolved just to deal with it. Yeah, so I don't think they're hiding from it. They just got used to it.
No,
and even myself, after like 9 days of being there, you become acclimatized to it somewhat. It's just, like I say, it's such a shock from England to that. We just don't get anything like that ever, I don't think.
No, my room's 27 degrees and 60% relative humidity, and that's heavy enough, let alone 30% more.
Yeah, and like I said, keeping stuff at that in captivity, I just think it's maybe like spikes of that would be okay if you could let the cage dry out. I think that'd probably be really good. I'm keeping some rising area a bit more humid. Some of the juvenile ones I've bred, and they seem to like they're shedding really well. They look really bright. So there may be something into that. But like I said, I keep the adults a lower percent humidity, and they're doing just as fine. So there's obviously a range. But yeah, you don't want to be keeping them really humid. You don't want to be keeping them really dry. And then I've got misting systems, which was another thing actually bringing back every single day while I was there. It rained for some part of the day, and before I went, I'd actually turned my misting system off just because they were doing all right without it. But as soon as I come back, that goes on. Yeah, literally straight back on, and that's on for like 5 times a day. I'd sway it a little bit sometimes. But yeah, 5 times a day, not for ages because obviously the cage has got to dry out. Yeah, but they've got to have. I think it's, if you're not hand misting them, I think it's taken away from just what they're getting in the wild to give them no misting. I mean, I've kept them for periods with no misting, and they did all right. I just think you're taking something away from something that's so natural. Get a mister, either a hand misting each day. I've got one of those Mist Kings set up, so I'm just using that.
Yeah, I do everything by hand. I need to get onto the misting system, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, that's a nice picture on the right. So that's a good toilet over there. Obviously no flush, and there's a huntsman sat right there, which is the reason Alicia hasn't been on any of these trips. Which is my girlfriend. It's a strong no from her. Australia was okay. She didn't see too many spiders over there, but yeah, I mean, they don't do anything. They're literally, that guy was there at some part of that toilet every single day, and he didn't bother me. He was absolutely fine. And like I said, no flushing toilet or anything, but that's pretty standard for most parts of Indonesia. You sort of just get some water and flush it down yourself.
Yeah, I'd be ruined with Crohn's disease over there.
Yes, mate. Yeah, possibly.
That's my whole plans and hopes and dreams gone now.
I mean, just get really good at flushing it down yourself, I think. I mean,
mate, working on building sites. I'm used to it working on building sites, not having flushable toilets.
Yeah, mate, it's no worse than that. Honestly, I worked on building sites as you have, and it's literally no different to that. It's the fine, but for some people that are not used to it, it could be a bit of a game changer.
So just a quick question. So little and often spraying rather than one big spray a day, you recommend?
Yeah, that's how I do it. I even give them a spray during the night as well. Sort of raise up, nothing too major. You don't want it getting really... problem is, like, wet and cold is a bad thing. Wet and hot when it dries out. But yeah, if I was just spraying in for long periods, my cages or my vivs just wouldn't dry out. So yeah, I think little and often's pretty good. I think the longest I have them on for is like a minute at a time, but mostly it's like 30-second bursts. This is something like nicer accommodation we stayed at. These are like the homestays that certain villages around Batanta have got stayed up. I mean, if you can't be happy with that view, and I mean, you've got a mattress on the floor and that toilet, but apart from that, you get up each day. And the amazing thing is, you sit on that veranda there, and across from there, that is where Macrae, where that sun's setting. You know they're there, which sort of gives you this big boost of it's pretty amazing.
I can only imagine, mate. Literally.
So that's just another on the left hand side. That's just the homestay where we stayed, and us with the boat with Nerdin, just there. And then on the right, a lot of people, I don't know if people realise how they're actually catching the Macrae. That stick in his hand, that's called a gancho. It's like a long bamboo pole, basically, with a little noose on the end. I think we got some pictures a bit later on of the actual noose. But yeah, it's super long, and they're climbing meters and meters up into the trees. I need to take some measurements of the actual sizes of them, how far they were going up, because it's pretty hard to gauge. But it was pretty high. It's like taller than a standard sort of two-story house in England, with that pole, and then catching a McRae at the end of it.
It's pretty mad, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so dense, man.
Yeah, that's pretty typical sort of habitat. You can see there, you see where it's like opened up. There's more sunlight with the smaller trees almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Them sort of areas is where the hunters wanted where the McRae come in during the day, and that's the easiest place for them to catch them. Basically, it's a bit lucky on the hunter side that they do this thing of coming from the taller trees down into these small trees to bask and hunt and forage, and that's when they can get hold of them. Because like I said, the tall trees, we watched one come down from it into the smaller trees, and they were just like holding back. We watched this thing for about 20 minutes until it got well into one of the smaller trees, basically. But at any point, the guys were saying, yeah, it can just go back into the taller tree and it would be gone. That one on the right is just a big leaf. I don't know what species of tree it was or anything. But...
Look nice.
Yeah. So that's one of the guys on the left. That's Eddie with the McRae. He's actually holding it out. I don't know if people can see it very well.
Oh, yeah, I can just about, yeah.
You go up a little bit, you can actually see the lizard there. And that was one of the taller trees that they were actually in. That was the one we caught that was coming down from an even bigger tree into like this medium-sized tree. And that tree there is called an itching tree. So they're pretty dedicated, because after that, he had a big rash all over his arms and was itching all day. And that's the actual tree on the right-hand side there where we found. That's like the bottom of the tree, basically, where it was found. But I couldn't see that lizard for probably 10 minutes while they were pointing it at me when it was coming down the bigger tree. I just literally couldn't see it. I had my camera out with a zoom lens on it. Yeah. I was just like, no way. And they spotted it probably 20 minutes before that, and they just been just looking at it, looking where it's going. They're so in tune to any bit of movement and sort of where they're going to be. It's insane.
Did you get much bamboo in those forests?
There is pockets of it, yeah. That's what, like I said, they're making those ganchos, which is the long bamboo sticks. That's where they get it from, and then they sort of straighten it over a campfire. So that's what they make it so straight, and then put a noose on the end of it. But yeah, there was pockets of bamboo, not everywhere, but pockets. One on the left is a nice picture, but we haven't gone into it. My camera packed up. I've got taken it around Australia for 10 years and never had a problem with it. One day in Batanta with the humidity and everything, it just gave up. So that was a phone picture I had to get on the left, and that was devastating. I was like, oh my God, the whole reason for coming here, one of the main reasons was to get some good pictures of these guys that nobody had before. And then literally on my phone, my Samsung phone, trying to get it to shoot raw. And unfortunately, I mean, with a camera, that would have been like probably the best picture I'd taken. But it's just so blurry and rubbish. But I've got a new camera for the next trip, so it should be all right. On the right, again, that's just another one of those millipedes.
Are they out and about in the day as well?
What's that? The millipedes?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just always just about. They're just moving about in the leaf litter. But I honestly can't tell you how dense they are. You get a side of the tree will have like 4 or 5 of them on.
That's mad.
Again, this was more to show like the leaf litter and stuff. I mean, pretty much everywhere you're getting that leaf litter compacting down. So if you're not using that in your cages, you've got to get it.
I'm going out tomorrow, and I'm taking a 1 ton bag.
I hadn't done any before. I'd done it a little bit, and then I don't know why I hadn't. I was a bit worried about the bugs and stuff that were in it, but now I just get it, just chuck it in. And honestly,
I do it all the time in the mangrove cages. But I guess because in my head they're on the floor. Like, I don't care about all the bugs and stuff. I'm really
not me now. Honestly, there was worms in it and everything last time I did it, and they all seem to be. Nothing's caused any detriment to the monitors. I've been keeping it with a leaflet in there for like over a year now. So yeah, but yeah, it was everywhere. Again, those are the sort of trees you're getting them coming into, which that was a big shock to me. These little sort of pockets of trees, obviously when they're getting all that sunlight, so they can get a good bask on there. And then obviously a lot of insects are on those leaves, feeding on the leaves, and going in there. And luckily for us going over there, and obviously the hunters, they're a lot easier to catch in those littler trees than the massive ones.
So you find that they're more vertical, like coming up and down rather than horizontal on these sort of branches then.
Yeah, for those ones, yeah. If you once you get out of the canopy proper, as you want to call it, where they're like I want to say roosting, so they're going there overnight, and then when they've had their basking, I spoke to the guys, and they cut off their days hunting at 3 o'clock. So anything past 3 o'clock, they think they've gone back into the bigger trees where they're obviously digesting food, and then they don't really bother coming back out. The ambience are pretty high there, so it's not like other places where they're coming back out to bask. They've sort of got their morning basking done, feed, maybe a bit more of a bask, and then that ambience staying pretty high, and then it stays pretty high at night as well. So that's what they're doing.
Day. Yeah, and then 94% humidity and 27.5 degrees.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. You can't even fathom that, can you? Like my incubator is only 92% humidity in the tub, and that's like 94% outside.
Yeah, I mean that is on the floor, which boosts it up a little. We were still getting ambience of that. I mean, if you look at that ground on the left of it, it looks still pretty dry. Like I was saying before, when you were saying, does it trickle down? That most of it's quite dry, and then you get these obviously where the leaflet's compacted more, it's getting a lot more humid, and then if obviously they got rain, it's getting more humid again. More leaf litter, super important. That's just a UVI, and that's my horrible thumb that I had to deal with. I was pouring out iodine into that every single day. Basically, I'd injured my thumb on site 3 weeks before going, which was excruciatingly painful. But that nail actually started coming off.
And
then with that humidity and lack of washing and all the rest of it, is like we got to keep pouring iodine into that, and that's just UV reading. I took a few while I was over there.
So that 1.5 is that? I'm assuming quite a dense canopy that you're.
Yeah. Like I said, it went down to 0, but then I was like trying to average it out. Obviously, I was on the floor, but they are coming down to the floor. It's obviously I went into like where the smaller trees were. I was trying to get it sort of the same by going into patches of sunlight, and I think the highest I got on the sunniest day was like 6. A lot of Indonesia, a lot of the time, it's quite overcast. So they do get like breaks in the cloud, but then for a lot of it, it sort of lulls you into a false sense of security, and that UV does drop a bit because of the cloud cover.
Yeah.
I don't know what that lizard is on the left because I'm not very good with the garments, but the hunters thought I'd like to see it, so they caught one. I think it's some sort of forest dragon, but I stand to be corrected on that. They have got some really impressive forest dragons over there. I don't quite know the species of them.
Did you go swimming in that little?
Yes. Yeah, that's a pretty famous waterfall. If you type in batanta into Google or something, that waterfall is going to come up. It's at the end of a load of mangroves. They've actually found this. It's a good one for you, Paul. They found Indicus there last time they were there. So that's the sort of habitat, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that water was amazing, and it was a chance to have a wash actually. So if you can see Nerdins there with his towel around him, and all the guys took that as a opportunity to have a bit of a wash.
It must be like a nice release.
Yeah, they're pretty mental though. They went to the top of that waterfall and started jumping off into the bottom, which I didn't do because I don't think my travel insurance would have gone that far if they found out what went on.
I mean, they're climbing 2 stories up bloody.
Yeah, they don't care. More rice behind
Idyllic,
that.
Mate. I can't wait. That's like a 5-course meal for me.
That is some sort of fish behind, which I did try. It was super, super bony. It doesn't affect the guys at all. It was so fishy for my palate. I mean, I'm not a big fish guy anyway, but if you're into fish, I'm sure it's absolutely lovely. It's super fresh. It was literally caught right outside. Yeah. It's not the cod and chips we're used to in England. That was one of the homestays that was shown before. That's just sort of the mattress that you'll get given. I think that might be the hunters. I think mine actually had a mozzie net, which they obviously give you for the tourists, but the guys seem to be pretty immune to it. Like I said, there wasn't many mozzies over there, but for the tourists in the homestays, they do provide sort of mozzie nets. They get a bit of a help from the government to set up these homestays and make it a bit more habitable to sort of us Westerners. That one on the right is 3.5. That was the average, pretty much. I took loads of readings, and that's pretty much the average on sort of out in the open where we were finding these small trees. Was that sort of 3.5?
Is that roughly what UVI you're keeping in your enclosures on your basking spot?
Yeah, that's literally exactly what I'm keeping at. They can get a bit higher towards the UVs and get obviously higher, and then it goes on mine. It goes down to 0, so I'm giving them that sort of gradient of UV. But yeah, around that basking spot area, I'm doing 2.5 to 3.5.
Okay, yeah, mine currently are at, well, they can obviously go higher if they want, but my basking spots are currently around 4.
Yeah.
So slightly higher.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I wasn't there over there long enough to give you like a good average, but it's in between that from what I can see and how overcast it is over there. It's sort of in between that sort of range.
Yeah.
That one on the left could be one of these hollow trees. This is a hollow tree. They might be laying their eggs. There's actually a crab in there, if you can see on the bottom. See him there?
Oh yeah, I see him. Yeah.
Those crabs,
more than that, but yeah.
Just like the millipedes, those crabs are absolutely everywhere, and that was a big shock. And I've got a few gears, so obviously perfect for Indicus, perfect for peach throats, but maybe because they weren't just found. That was literally in the middle of the jungle where we were finding the macraei. Would a tree monitor take one of those? Possibly. Definitely a smaller one, I would have thought. So that's something to think about. I think.
Yeah, probably, definitely. I'm getting some termite mounds now.
Yeah, these were just the arboreal termite mounds that everyone sort of been speaking about, talks about. I mean, I can see if they were empty. I don't know. I don't know how bad the termites are. They're not aggressive like ants. I know that, but would they annoy the tree monitors enough to
I'd stop them laying, sort of thing.
to stop them laying? There's big ones of those that are empty, and I think that is literally probably ideal for a tree monitor. But they weren't that common. So they weren't just like every tree didn't have one of those. It would be a few, and then you'd go a long way without seeing any more. So maybe the ones in that area are utilising them. But then, like I said, there's way more hollow trees and stuff for them to lay their eggs in, I think. And then speaking of the hunters, apart from that older guy, none of them had ever seen any tree monitor sort of hang around. I'm not saying that they don't. Like I said, it's a difficult one. Getting to know where these things lay is going to be a challenge. It's just, I think we can just rule out on the floor. Was the main thing I took from the trip.
So did you get a gauge of the texture and how hard these termite mounds were?
Yeah, somewhere on my Instagram again, there's one of me smashing one up with a snake hook basically, and they just sort of crumble. They're very crumbly, they're not very hard, so they could definitely dig into them. But yeah, it's I wouldn't, like I said, I don't want to rule it out. Like I said, there's been that paper that's done that stated that they were coming out of a termite mound, but I don't know how good that is. I'd like to source it back a little bit more to see, was it actually a Prasinus that was laying eggs, because there's lots of other lizards over there that are green. There's emerald tree skinks and stuff like that. So yeah,
is there a possibility that babies were just hunting rather than hatching?
Exactly, that too. Yeah. Did he see him actually come out? We'll never know. Like I said, that old guy did definitely say he'd seen eggs in a termite mound, but it was a dead, abandoned termite mound. And then every time I speak to him about anything to do with termites, they'd sort of just laugh at me and just like, no, they're not. We don't think they're doing that.
Yeah.
Again, pretty typical habitat. You can see left and right there. It's pretty that's sort of habitat I had in my head when I was like, oh, I'm going to go look for tree monitors. I expected it to look like that. Like I said, the small tree thing was a bit of more of a shock, because I thought we'd be looking up in these big trees. I'm glad we didn't just have to do that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty idyllic, to be fair, isn't it? Like,
yeah, or some pretty wet in areas as well. So there was a lot of rivers and tributaries going out to like the coast. Like I said, absolutely full of crabs, and that's where you're sort of getting your Indicus stuff, and occasional peach throats and stuff like that.
Soon come. I know there's pictures here somewhere.
You've been pretty good holding off on the Indicus.
Oh, mate, they're here for the tree monitor. It's not the bloody mangroves. It's just me on my own.
They're all awesome. They're amazing to see in the wild, as you can imagine.
One day.
Again, more typical habitat, where you got the pandanus type stuff on the floor. That I don't know if I got a picture. I sent you the picture. There was a really common tree. I haven't been able to identify it. It's got like serrated edges. It looks a bit like an oak leaf, basically. But that was growing absolutely everywhere. I need to locate. I got a local name for it. I've tried to Google it, and it just doesn't come back with anything, unfortunately. But yeah, it was sort of everywhere. And then that's a trail, as you can see. Nerding going down there. It's just because they've been there so much. It sort of makes these little trails. If you start walking left or right of that, it becomes super dense and just too hard.
Yeah. Did you find any like obviously not for the tree monitors, but was there any obvious signs of like regularly used tracks from like monitors on the ground or animals on the ground, or is it just like this? We're looking at this now, it's probably answers my question. No, because it's still
No, it's too hard. In Australia, in Australia, that's like one of the best things. You go to like the red spinifex country and the red dunes, and you can see like gould eye tracks and perennial tracks and all the rest of it. It's absolutely amazing. But yeah, I couldn't really see anything over there as far as that goes. It's just too dense. And I was trying not to slip over most of the time. Lucky I had that snake hook because it's slippy, and a lot of batanta, like I said before, is really, really steep.
Yeah, it looks like you say in your head. If you picture it, this is what I would imagine in my head what they'd be living in.
Yeah. So these are like the bigger buttress sort of trees where they're roosting. Those ones have got like lots of hollows and cracks and stuff into them. So that's where they're sort of going at night for sure, it seems, and then sort of roosting and retreating into those maybe when it rains, etc. But then you've got these little pockets where they're sort of smaller trees where they're coming down to hunt.
Yeah.
There you go there. So that's like the smaller trees again. Pretty interesting, like you said, they're really really horizontal, and then they got like the canopy at the top, and those branches at the top are super thin. Again, on my Instagram, I've got a video of them sort of moving through the canopy, and it's a big adult male macrae, and it's on these really, really thin branches just going through there.
So I'm a massive perpetuant of sticking skinny branches in, especially with babies. Now I don't know how true this is, but like in my head, you know, when you keep like chameleons, people suggest putting smaller branches in and thicker branches in to build the muscle density and complexity of the hands.
Yeah,
I think it could be the same with monitors, because when I first put tiny little stick branches in with my little baby Prasinus, she would fall off them, but now she skates across them like they're nothing.
Yeah, for sure. Muscle memory, almost, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's great enrichment, I think. So I think if in our enclosures, if we do vertical and horizontal, skinny and thick branches, I think then you're meeting all clearly what they're doing in the wild.
Yeah, that's another thing I implemented, actually. I used to keep them fairly bare before I went on this trip, and now they're just rammed with absolutely everything. I've got no real spaces. Gives you that shade and light sort of gradient as well, and they've used it like all over the cage. It's just branches, bits of not just cork tubes and stuff. I was a big proponent before I went over there. I was just keeping lots of cork tubes and obviously big round things. Now they've got small sticks in there. Plastic plants at the moment, which annoys me because I really want to get real plants going in there. I think that's super important. If you can get that going, it's super beneficial for the humidity cycle. It just feels a lot better, but mine just destroy it. So
yeah, I've been quite successful with pothos, but other than pothos, like you say, mine gets destroyed.
Yeah. Again, that's one of the higher UV readings over there. Like I said, I think on that day it got to 6.5 possibly. But yeah, that was in direct sunlight basically. So as soon as you go in the canopy, it obviously drops down, and then it can drop down to nothing. That one on the right is just Amdui, so that's where the hunters' village actually is. That's a abandoned homestay almost. It was someone that basically started building it and then run out of money and stopped building it. But the guys in the village were like, you can set up your tent in there, which is pretty ideal for us.
Yeah, it's pretty select, to be fair. Like I'd go and like, regardless of finding lizards, just staying somewhere like that for me would be fun enough. And yeah,
there you go. That's the same area with the tent pitched up there, which they all laughed at because like Nerd and stuff were just literally sleeping on the floor. They were just happy to have something overhead, but obviously me being a bit more bougie, set up the tent inside as well.
I wouldn't. But people in America, cool. Bougie basically just means like glamorous. We'll say that. I wouldn't class that as glamorous.
It is for them. That was right at the end of the trip. That was right at the end of the trip when we were dropping the hunters off, and we'd been obviously staying pretty rough up until there. So that was like, oh my god, this is 5-star now. Setting up a tent inside. Yeah.
Here we go.
So this is just a couple of the that's me and Nerdin on the left. He's like super instrumental over there. He's got a big history going back to like the 80s of helping people with the birds of paradise and Salvador and all sorts of stuff over there. Like I said, I believe he's the first guy outside of Batanta to actually see McRae in the wild, which is pretty amazing that he's still around, still helping people out. And that's just one of the McRae we caught there.
So how many in total did you find?
I think it was 5 over 6 days. I'd have to check my notes. One of the days we caught 2 in one day, which throws off the odds, and then one of the days we didn't catch any. So yeah, I think it was 5 or 6 in total, basically.
Was that 5 or 6 in hand, or is that all you saw?
Just more than that. There was more than that. That was in hand. We saw some in the trees, some that I didn't even see myself, so I can't claim those ones. And then one that I actually saw that nobody else had seen. So they didn't actually believe me. The hunters. And I was like, honestly, and they're like, no, I think it was Salvador. It was Salvador. I was like, oh, I'd be really buzzing if it was Salvador, but no, it was definitely McRae.
They were like, listen, Mr. Bougie with your tent.
Yeah.
You tell us
there's no way you saw one and we didn't, is basically what they were saying.
Yeah.
That's a little Candoya boa on the left there. That was an amazing thing. Obviously, I'm into all reptiles, so I wanted to find snakes. The guys that catch the blue tree monitors are petrified of snakes. Literally, which is strange for that area. In other parts of Indonesia, obviously they're catching like the green tree pythons and stuff, but those particular guys were just like, nah, want nothing to do with it. I was holding it, telling them it was non-venomous, getting Nerdin to translate for them, and they just went white. As soon as I grabbed it, they were just like, what is he doing? You can't touch that. There's a species over there called Micropechis ikehika, which is like a small-eyed elapid, basically. It's pretty super venomous. So they just treat everything like it's ikehika, which is a good way to go, really, if you can't identify them. And yeah, it'd be sort of game over if they got bit by one of those ikehika over there.
Yeah, better safe than sorry as such.
More typical sort of habitat. Again, everywhere you go, there's that leaf litter. Sometimes it's a bit more thick than that. And yeah, sort of those are the sort of smaller trees mixed in with some of the bigger trees. But again, just pretty typical all through there.
I'm going, literally, there's a woods like not even 2 minutes from my house. I'm going 1 ton bag tomorrow.
Yeah.
96% humidity, man.
Yeah, that's ambient as well, because that's literally me holding it in the air. So that's and pretty cool. If you look, 26 Celsius there. So yeah, it's just relentless humidity. I can't think what that one on the left is.
It might be a video, and if it is, I'm not going to attempt to play it. Just where we are.
That might have been just a video of the general sort of area.
Yeah. And looking just quickly on that temperature and humidity, like it's similar to what we would incubate at. So as long as where they're finding it's dry, if that's their averages, the eggs can just sit out. They don't have to worry about burying the eggs because the environment is sort of idyllic.
Yeah, I know Julian's tried down to 26, which I incubate sort of 29.5. But I know he's had really good babies going down to 26 and really, really colourful ones as well. They just take a lot longer to hatch. Yeah. Just random bug on the left, obviously some sort of stag beetle type thing. They're fairly common. On the right is when I literally given up with everything. I was offered some biscuits and tea, and that tea and biscuits was literally one of the best things I've ever had. You appreciate food so much more when you've been on rice for 3 times a day. Another fish over there, which I didn't eat because I'm not into fish, but it was a group of fish and probably absolutely lovely, but I just didn't fancy it.
Yes, I don't eat fish at all, so yeah.
And get some more. That's a gecko there eating I thought, a ridiculously large meal. It was a pretty big cricket. He's gone there. I don't know the species. I think giant porensis, but I don't know what the genus is. but yeah, pretty big meal for it to be taken down.
Sure, it's bigger than its head, as recommended in
Yeah,
captivity.
yeah. They don't listen to what we think.
Yeah, no one's taught him how to gecko, clearly. And
No.
what's all this loose substrate he's on as well?
Yeah. Fancy that.
And then
I think whip scorpion on the right. There was like a caveat sort of area. That's actually Wygeo, not Batanta anymore, where we looked for obviously Bomai. But yeah, that's a sort of a cave area. Obviously, there's just whip scorpions in there.
I'm just checking the chat. I don't think there's any questions as of yet. So if there are, sorry that I forgot about you.
Yeah, I feel
Big
sorry for
crickets.
anyone listens by audio, but I guess you're not doing the audio stuff just yet.
No,
So
not just yet. But
everyone
when this is on audio only, guys, you need to come over to YouTube and watch, because we've got some exclusive pictures. And to be honest, I think I forgot to monetize this before it went live. So people watching it now, you're watching this for free, and then all the rest.
Small bugs, some sort of cave cricket. That was that cave area again, and then some sort of grasshopper type thing. Don't ask me for the species. I'm no good. But
No, I wouldn't have a clue, mate. There he is, bougie life.
yeah, I can't remember which one that was. I had a burger and chips before we went to Batanta, and one again straight after at the hotel. So that's either the happiest meal I have, or that's my last meal before rice 3 times a day. The one on the right, that's one of my favourite pictures. That's me pointing out one of the McRae that the hunters already showed me anyway. It's probably me actually pointing to is it there rather than there is the lizard.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the one I took the good pictures of, basically. Again, in a small tree. That tree is a jackfruit tree. I don't know. I think I've got a picture of the actual fruit. I think they're called durian as well, but definitely jackfruit. It's like a spiky fruit, basically.
My favourite photos are the ones Fee quite is into her photography. When she takes photos of me doing stuff, they always
Yes.
end up
Awesome.
being my favourite photos.
Again, that was after we caught that lizard in that jackfruit tree. That's the noose. It's pretty brutal. Them getting noosed, basically. So as soon as they come down, I was like straight on to getting that noose straight off. It's pretty brutal around their neck, but they get them off pretty quickly. So do the guys get them off pretty quickly, but you just don't want to put any sort of more added stress than we're already putting them in by catching them out of the trees.
Yeah. I highly doubt there's many other ways other than traps that would leave them there overnight. There's not really any other ways to catch them, I'd assume.
The quickest and most humane way, like I said, otherwise they'd be like trapping them, or like in some areas they like get their pea shooters and stuff and shoot them out of the trees and stuff, like silly stuff like that. Not in Batanta, but I've heard that in sort of other areas of the world. So yeah, it's pretty humane. That noose is on them for literally a minute while it goes from the top of the tree. They pass it down to the guy on the bottom. So the way they work it, there's usually two of them, someone that goes up the tree and then someone that's keeping an eye on the lizard. The amount of times I just literally lost where the lizard was, but this guy managed to keep his eyes on the lizard at all times, directing to the guy where it is, up a bit, down a bit, and then as soon as he's noosed it, straight down to the guy on the ground, he obviously unnooses it and gets it usually straight into a bag to go back to the village.
Yeah, it's just mad how they've I guess adapted. Here we go. How they've adapted to just because obviously this is second nature to them. They're so in tune with their environment.
Oh, ridiculous! Yeah. So this is the at the end of the gancho, which is that bamboo pole. That's just made by a bit of carton. Like they do boxes. We get it over here, that white carton stuff that holds boxes together. So it's plastic basically, and then they just make that loop out of it and wrap it around, and it seems to work pretty well.
And I'm assuming goes over the neck. Once the lizard runs, it pulls tight.
Yeah, so they actually pull it. The lizards are pretty oblivious. They're actually shocked, which was different to what I found in Australia with the Varanus over there. They were pretty wary for the most part. But these tree monitors seemed pretty oblivious and would actually stand there pretty much and look at the noose coming towards them and then not make a run. Where a lot of, like I said, the Australian stuff, as soon as you get in any sort of distance, they're just off. So yeah, they're pretty easy to capture, unfortunately, because they sort of just stand there, look at it, and go, "What's that?" And by the time they've had the noose around the neck, and they sort of lift up the noose, so it tightens around the neck. And then if they obviously struggle against it, because it's that sort of that noose, it's just going to get tighter. Like I said, quickly down, take that noose off, comes off really easy. It just loosens off basically.
I guess that would lead more to the fact that they rely on camouflage, though, if they're not running.
I think they're just so oblivious of, like I said, apart from birds of prey and stuff, I don't think they got too many other lizards and stuff. It's just so alien to them that they almost seem shocked when they're getting caught. They're just so easy. And compared, like I said, to other Varanus I found in the wild, they would literally just sit there. That's a few of the bugs we found over there. It's a weird looking grasshopper slash katydid type of thing, but they were sort of everywhere.
Pause monitors. Would you pay to feed wild lizards attraction to be potentially harmful from pause monitors? Would you pay to feed wild lizards? No, I don't think I'd pay to feed a wild lizard purely just because then I don't like the idea of the lizard associating humans with good stuff. I'd rather wild be wild.
They sort of become not wild at that point, don't they? If they're just there to be fed. I know, like a lot of the water monitors in Singapore and that are just so fat, and where they're just getting fed scraps and stuff, and you can sort of guarantee to see them. It's not really finding them. I wouldn't class that.
I'm lucky enough to have animals in captivity, so I think just seeing them in the wild would be more than enough for me.
Even not catching them, towards once I got like some really good photos, we spent more time just looking at them in the treetops, and I wanted to see actually how they're moving around and stuff rather than just catching them each time. So it's okay catching them, but you've then made it totally unwild. I mean, you get some really cool pictures, but then some of the best pictures I saw, my favorite pictures are the ones where it's literally just in situ of the lizard doing its thing. It's wicked to get those real nice shots, but it's also nice to see them, just walking around in the treetops.
I've misread it. Would a pay to feed wild lizards attraction be potentially harmful? We answered the question inadvertently.
Sure,
so my bad.
I read that totally. I read that same as you.
Yeah, my bad. So just on that then, as we're flicking for a couple of days, what is their sort of natural behavior like? Because obviously we've said they start out in these bigger trees, they come down to this canopy, which we're assuming these open moor canopies, thinner branches, which we're assuming they do to bask and hunt.
Yeah.
Is that pretty much just the life? Was there any quirky, unique behaviors that you saw? Or
no, because we were just seeing it for such a snippet. It's too hard. And then during obviously the start of the trip, the hunters were really eager to actually catch the lizards. So they were like, "Should we catch? Should we catch?" And I was trying to let them. Obviously, you've got the risk of if you don't catch them, they could just be gone within a second, straight up a bigger tree and off. So obviously, I was keen to get them in hand to get some good pictures that hadn't been taken before by anyone really. And then they were pretty keen to obviously. It's sort of pride for them to show you them hunting and all the rest of it, which was amazing, and sort of be able to document that was fantastic. But it's such a small snippet. It's like towards the end we were sort of waiting sort of 10, 20 minutes watching them go around the trees, and they're just foraging. They didn't seem too bothered by us at all until they sort of were caught. That's why I say it's quite interesting compared to other monitors, because other monitors I've seen in the wild, as soon as they know they've seen you, they are just fixated on you, and they'll let you get to a certain distance and then they're just off. But yeah, to sort of seeing what they're up to, it's such a small snippet of their life. I don't know how you'd ever document. You'd need sort of a David Attenborough style thing, documentary maker to go over there and sort of sit there for weeks on end. With lizards, I think it's hard. Like I said, they're in and out of trees all the time. It's not that predictable.
You'd need like some sort of silent drone that they become accustomed to that could just follow them around, because otherwise they just don't see it. How it's feasible. And
then at that point, if they notice that drone is something a bit different, are you affecting them anyway? But the sheer act of sort of watching something, if it knows it's being watched, then you've changed how it's going to act.
It doesn't act naturally, yeah, of course, yeah.
You have to use the toilet. 2 seconds, Paul.
No, you're fine, man. If I find anything cool, I'll stop. Actually, let me catch up with the chat. All right, where are we at? Hello, everybody. I've read it wrong. Yeah, all right. I can't read. Turn into a wildlife safari park as ecotourism, would birds of paradise still need to be introduced for this to be effective? I think it's a hard one. I think as soon as you start like interfering with wild, like Chris literally just said, it all of a sudden takes away from it being wild. But I mean, if it's saving a species, then here we go. One in a trap will stay on this. But I'm going to go out and get some leaf litter. But yeah, that's pretty savage. For 27 people, wow. I don't know how many likes we've got, but get the likes up, ladies and gentlemen. We have like peaked at like 35, and there's people are here for it. People are loving the treatment. Any more questions? Drop them in now. Ecotourism can be good, but it needs to be in moderation. Drop in the you want me to get it. Want you to get what? What did I ask for? I forgot. I don't know what's going on. I have another drink. As we're asking, but yeah, this is a lizard. Savageness. Oh, there we go. We'll leave it there. Look at that. I can hear a noise. I'll go back up. Hello.
Hello. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Man. Literally, like, I get used to it because I sit here for like 4 or 5 hours, but
you're getting the Joe Rogan experience. How he sits there for hours, isn't he?
I don't know how I do it. Like every time I finish a podcast, I'm like, out of nowhere, my body's like, you need to use the loo. But yeah, I'm assuming, obviously, this is a snared one.
Yeah, so that's it. Yeah, so that's where you can see the noose going around there. Like I said, it's not very nice, but it's not for very long. But that's sort of just a pretty good picture of one being noosed. And these are sort of the posed pictures I got once we caught them. So these aren't obviously in situ. These are ones I've set up to take good photographs of. That was the first one we found on the left and right there. So I'm pretty happy with those. Unfortunately, like I said, the next day my camera screwed up, and then I got one more chance when my camera was working. But as a photographer, it's brutal to get camera issues. There's nothing you can do about it. There's no Canon shop or anything you can go and get it fixed. It's like, oh my god, is the only picture. I mean, I would have been happy, to be honest, to get that one shot there on the right. I'm pretty happy with that. That would have been trip made, but anything more than that was a bonus. But like some of the ones we caught a bit later on were just stunning examples, and it would have been nice to get some like really, really good photos of them. Like I said, I can't complain. It's a good picture, I think.
Two questions. Question one.
Yeah.
Did you just put him there and he was so like, oh, wary that you could get some snaps, then he ran off?
Yeah, so there's a thing called, what photographers call it, sort of breaking the spirit. So if you handle any lizard for any sort of, not for a prolonged period of time, for like 2 minutes, they become pretty relaxed that you're not going to eat them. And most of them, sometimes they don't, but most of the time they allow you to pose to get a few good shots, and then they're usually straight off. That one was pretty bad behaved, and to be honest, they're probably the easiest monitors I've ever had to photograph with these tree monitors. I mean, they sort of got used to you pretty quickly, a bit like our captive ones. Once you get them out of the vivarium, they're like pretty skittish for a while, and then they just sort of calm down. The same, so you can sort of use that to your advantage, set it up, get some good shots. I'm not one for taking shots for like hours and hours, just stressing stuff out. I'll get some good shots and then let him straight on his way, basically. But a few of them did run off. I was able to get like one shot of it, and then it ran off. That one was pretty well behaved. It wasn't doing that good compared to some of the other ones we found. I think that was just a little, I can't know if that's just a little female, but she was quite skinny at the tail base, a bit more like what we see in captivity. I think I've got a close up. I sent you a bit further down, maybe.
Yeah, we'll have a check. Well, that's the third question, but the second question, coloration of the wild ones. One, how much variation, and two, what's it like in comparison to captivity?
I didn't really notice it until I got back, but then there's been these greenback ones that people have been speaking about recently, and we definitely found one that was more of a greenish tint. Not that one particularly. That was closer to Amdui, which is obviously where the hunters go, which would have been the more typical ones we were seeing like years ago. So like when they first started coming in, they would have all been being collected from Iam and Amdui, which is by the village, and they seem to be blue. the further north around the island we were getting, we started to get those ones with like the greenish tints. I don't know what's. I wouldn't want to say that they're all coming from there. But that's where most of the hunting's coming from now, and they seem to have this greenish back thing going on. I didn't really notice it in the wild too much, but a few other people have said to me, "Oh, that looks like one of those greenback ones that are coming in." But yeah, the colours are just amazing. They're pretty variable as a species. I mean, that's quite a typical one. We found a male, an old male, big male, that had a lot more black on it. Some have got more blue. I think there's a picture of probably the best pictures I took. That one had the really big spots. So that's just that tail base on the left there of that one. You can see how it's quite sunken in. Like I said, some of them were just like absolutely amazing weight on them. That one was probably one of the skinnier ones we found. We found two like that, I think, with that sort of skinny sort of tail base, and then the other ones were just like, oh my god, this could have literally come out of a vivarium.
So, do you think, based on that, then, do you think for the most part tree monitors in captivity are about the right size, or do you think they're slightly chunkier than their wild ones?
I think the wild caught ones, or farmed, or whatever you want to call it, but basically wild caught, they seem to stay skinnier, and they're actually harder to get the weight on from what I found, where the captive bred ones, it's probably internal parasites and stuff like that, they get fat pretty quick, and you can ruin them really quick. I've come close with my female Rising Gary, where she took a year off where I just got too fat. It didn't seem that fat to me, but then if you look at a wild one, or one of the wild caught ones I got in, that's in good condition, but just hasn't got that extra sort of weight going on. And yes, detrimental to breeding for sure, and it can't be good for the lizard. So on I err to go on the sort of skinnier side. But like I said, I don't know if I got a picture on the Instagram. There's a video of this female, and it was just like perfect. It's like that could have been a captive bred one. You wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah.
I think oh, go on.
I was gonna say this one looks like you say, other than I'm assuming this is the same one, but other than
same lizard, that one, yeah.
It for the most part it looks okay, other than like you say the back end of it.
They're not like the emaciated ones we get from the importer sometime, because what's happened there is that lizard's then gone to Amdui, possibly sat there for 2 weeks, gone to a shipper in Sarong, and then got to the farm. And then what happens on the farm? Some farms are really good with them. Some farms just send them straight on.
Yeah.
Again, same lizard again. That I just can't believe what was going on at that point. I don't think it was just absolutely amazing.
Were they quite bitey, or were they not too bad?
No, the hunters treat them like they just couldn't believe I was holding them like this. And by the end, I got them holding them actually like that. Usually they just grab them behind the head, as you expect. Yeah, they weren't aggressive. They're more bemused at that point of what the hell's happened. I mean, these macrae are probably some of the luckiest ones in Batanta, because they got to be caught, and then they got to be released sort of pretty soon after. I'm sure that will give them a good stead of not getting caught again, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully that, because that's pretty much spot on. Once they're caught once, it's normally too late. They don't get a chance to learn.
That one on the left is just one being gantroed there again, so the noose going around its neck. Just about, so yeah.
Yeah, if I click on it, it'll just lose where
yeah. I said pretty much all these pictures on the on my Instagram anyway, in sort of higher quality.
Link in description. Yeah, and just more. I'm going out tomorrow, and I'm getting some leaflets.
That leaflet is really important, but that's sort of pretty typical again. Sort of habitat on the floor. Some areas are more like that, a bit more bare with that clay sort of soil. But then you've got those rotten logs again, where they could be incubating their eggs, laying their eggs. So yeah. Again, that's just the macrae on the left. You can just see them there, so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think that's actually once we'd released it. So the guys wanted a picture of me, a picture of them with the gancho, in case we didn't get any more pictures like that. So it didn't just run off completely. It sort of went up to that tree stump and then just watched us basically. Like I said, a lot of the ones, other monitors you get, like in Australia, they're off straight away as soon as you let them know.
Yeah. Termite mounds.
Yeah, that one on the left there is a disused one. I think it might actually be the same both sides. So it's got that hole in there. So they got sort of kookaburra type birds that nest in there. But I think that's pretty ideal if a tree monitor goes in there and uses that again. I don't know how well it would keep humidity. Like I said, the humidity is pretty constant there, so might be all right.
Yeah, it might act as an insulator in a way, though.
I hope it gets your bit.
So I have to ask, whereabouts did you find it? Inland or near water?
And that was pretty inland, actually, and that seems to be the case. But there was those tributaries or like small rivers running through that go out to the coast. So I think they live in water, but not tied to water as much as the Indicus. They're sort of in these trees in the leaf litter. Speaking to the guys, they always find them sort of just open, sort of forested areas, searching through the leaf litter. But like I said, I think they're tied to water a little bit, but not as much. So they're going to use it and they're going to be near it, but not as much as the Indicus. All the Indicus we found was right next to water.
It's so strange because mine in captivity, I've only got one jobiensis, but my 6 mangroves aren't bound to water, whereas my Indicus, my jobiensis lives in the water.
Yeah, so the Indicus are by the water. I don't know how much. I mean, Ricky's just put a one up. I don't know if you've seen his.
Yeah, mate, that's amazing.
Real, yeah. So those are literally in the water.
Yeah.
Like I said, all the ones I saw were overhanging branches next to the water, and then I'm sure they're sort of looking for crabs and stuff along the shoreline. The peach throats definitely they're going to, as you've seen in captivity, they're going to use water if it's there. But they seem, from what the guys were saying, that it's sort of open jungle sort of areas.
And how was this one? Was it feisty, wanted to kill you, or was it a bit?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, the claws, it's super strong. And that is one lizard that I couldn't pose. I literally got one picture of it and it was gone. That picture on the tree branch, and it did scratch me up a lot. Ridiculously strong, as you know, probably with your Indicus and stuff, compared to the tree monitors. They've got so much muscle on them. It's pretty interesting looking. I'm not too into peach throats, but those batanta ones have definitely got a different look to them.
I think mine is a batanta talking to a couple of. Mine's either batanta or wago talking to a couple of people. But
I didn't manage to get any from Wygo, but yeah, they're a lot darker by the seams of it compared to like the ones we get called strong ones.
Yeah, we get a lot of high banding. These guys are more ocelli.
Yeah, and a lot darker. But yeah, super strong lizard. But it was just out foraging, sort of in the leaf litter.
It's quite a big one. Well.
Yeah,
depends. There he is. There.
That's it. Yeah. They were super worried. The hunters were super worried at that because they literally catch them usually and chuck it in a bag ready to export. They don't get as much money for peach throats as they do the tree monitors, but they will catch them for the trade. Same with Salvadori, and not so much Indicus. They don't really look for Indicus. These are sort of a bycatch of looking for macrae. They're in the same habitat, so if they find one, they will catch them and bag them up and sort of send them out. They don't get anywhere near as much money for the jobiensis.
No.
That's the same one again. Pretty cool pictures. Yeah. That one on the right's pretty cool. That's a silhouette of a macrae right there. That's sort of what you get to see from the ground, and seeing that for the first time or even the 10th time is like unbelievable.
Yeah, I can imagine, it's like almost like a spirit of the forest kind of thing. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, it's just insane. It's like that is a tree monitor and you are in the wild, so that is a wild tree monitor. It's insane, really.
Yeah, one day, man, one day.
That one on the left there is where we found the peach throat sort of hanging about, so it's a lot more open if you can see.
Here.
Yeah, there.
Yeah.
So, that sort of area. There was a lot of sunlight coming through there, so they're sort of probably doing the same thing as the tree monitors. They're coming right down to the ground and foraging on the ground a lot more, rather than staying sort of in the canopy area.
Imagine they'd be picking off them crabs.
Yeah, definitely. Then those crabs are literally everywhere. There was as many crabs as there was millipedes.
That's actually quite interesting to know that. No, even inland, there's crabs everywhere.
And crabs, yeah. There is another macrae on that left-hand picture, if you can see him in the middle. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, I can't even imagine trying to spot them in the wild.
Yeah, it's insane. I don't know how they're just so in tune with the with the rainforest and the jungle. It's just unbelievable. They literally see any sort of movement and they're just honed on. I can find them for a little bit and then they'll move and I've just lost them again.
Yeah.
That's another jackfruit tree, and that's obviously in the McRae there.
Yeah, you can see it like they get quite far up the trees.
Yeah, like I said, that's one of the smaller trees. Again, that's probably one of the smallest trees there. You can see at the end, obviously, his pole. If you go up, that's the tree monitor there.
Yeah.
So yeah, like really open again. Open. It's got all that sunlight that you can see on the left hand side there. And he was literally, that's one of the ones we watched for a little bit, and you could just see him sort of mooching through the smaller branches.
Let's see if there's any comments. No questions or comments yet. If any questions or comments, guys, I am flicking between, so drop them in.
So that's one that we were just seeing noosed. That's Nerdin on the left hand side with that lizard. This is one of the ones that someone said was like the greenback type of one. It doesn't show it too much in that picture, but they got like the bigger ocelli almost. It's like a different look. These ones were from northern Batanta. Like I said, I don't know if they're all like that over there. So I don't want anyone quoting and trying to do like a sales pitch that these are now northern Batantan tree monitors because they got bigger spots. But like I said, that is something I noticed a little bit.
That one looks pretty lean.
Yes, yeah. This was the second one I was talking about with that sort of look where they were finding it obviously a bit harder, the sunken in tail base. But those two pictures there are pretty much what made the trip for me. I was just so impressed when I managed to get those shots. They're the ones that sort of make me most proud of the pose shots.
Yeah, no, that's a sick photo for sure, man. And they are a bit grainy, obviously coming through, like because I'm zoomed in on the thing. Yeah, but I've been through them all. Like on
they look a bit better on Instagram, and hopefully we'll get them on the website for it's like super high quality. And then these are just a couple of in situ ones. I don't know if you can be able to spot them. That one left, that one on the right, you can sort of see the silhouette of one again. That's it, yeah.
I'm trying to zoom in. My laptop won't let me. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm struggling to see it. I can't lie to you. Is it in the middle?
You were literally on it. If you, you're on it now, yeah.
Let me turn my brightness up on my laptop. Where's the brightness button? That one. Oh God, I'm on full brightness. Never mind.
I mean, it's a pretty rubbish picture anyway. But it's cool that it's in situ. But yeah, my camera was just playing up so much. I'm super lucky that I actually got any pictures out of it in the end. And I just seen one of the comments about a new camera, better weather sealing. Yeah, this one was a really old camera. It's a 70D. And yeah, I don't think it had any weather sealing or very, very poor. It went around Australia fine for sort of 5 years and then gave up the ghost as soon as it got a bit of humidity.
Are you getting is it the P1000 or whatever it's called?
I looked into it. Super good for zoom, but not very good in low light conditions. I mean, the zoom on it is absolutely insane, like we've seen on the AAH meeting. But yeah, for low light, the canopy, it just doesn't sort of hold up. So I just bought a newer Canon. Can't remember what I got now. It's a mirrorless one. 8D or something like that. Yeah, it's one of the newer mirrors.
I was looking at the 90D because apparently that one's like quote unquote weather.
It's an R6. Sorry, that's what it is. I looked at so many cameras. It was like, but yeah, and it's an R6, a mirrorless one, which is a bit different to take photos with, but sort of trying to get used to it over here before I get over there again.
Yeah. Just going out and taking casual pictures of smooth snakes.
Yeah. That's that jackfruit I was talking about earlier. Yeah. So it's like that spiky. I think I could be wrong. I think it's called durian as well. I could be wrong on that. I've seen it sold. It absolutely stinks when they open it up. But it could be a different one. I could be wrong with that. But yeah, it's definitely called jackfruit is what they were calling it.
Yeah, that's I've heard of it and heard how much they smell.
Oh yeah, it literally. I can't. If there's a shop selling it in like Bali or something, I can't be anywhere near it. It literally makes me heave. These are pretty cool. When the camera was working a bit better and the lighting conditions were a bit better. This was the big male I was talking about. Just in, like I said, that was a big lizard, probably 3 foot. And look at the size of those branches; they're just absolutely tiny. Again, in those smaller trees where you're getting that sunlight. I think he was actually actively hunting for like grasshoppers and katydids before we caught it. But we let this one. I got some video of him sort of mooching around in the treetops, completely unfussed that we were there all around the tree looking at him, which was pretty cool.
I just today, similar leaves, basically, I think it was from a chestnut tree, but I just snapped a load of branches off and I've just stuck them in the ground with my mangrove enclosure, and she's just spent the whole day walking around, like, just smelling the branches. Just
anything you add like that, they seem to just love. I got that video on my Instagram of that rising Gerai just rubbing himself up and down on that plant that I put in there.
Yeah, it's so strange they do that. Like, my Indicus does that. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't get why they do. It must be just like scent marking or something.
Yeah. Was it your male doing it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's obviously our female doing it, but obviously I'm not saying they don't scent mark, but yeah, it's interesting behaviours. It's cool that they're on these tiny little sticky branches.
Yeah. Like I said, right to the end of these branches. I'm guessing that's where the insects are going to be. They're not going to be by the tree trunk too much. They're going to be probably basking themselves, a bit like our grasshoppers do over here, like the long grass. And like I said, it's just amazing. It's a pretty hefty tree monitor that one was. That was the biggest one we caught. You can see it sort of sees the size of it there, even though it's sort of zoomed in from ages away. But yeah, pretty impressive how far out they go on the trees.
Yeah, that is pretty. That to me is like idyllic. How they're just like meandering their way through these like tiny little twiggy branches.
Yeah, like I said, he was a big impressive male. He must have been an old guy. He was quite dark. That was going back again towards Amdui, where it's more like a typical one. It's not those ones with the biggest ocelli. So this is more like what we used to get in going back. Not to say they don't come from there anymore. They're just being collected a bit less there.
Yeah.
That one on the left is probably one of my favourite ones, where he's sort of in motion walking through the treetops.
I really quite like this one. Like being almost silhouetted. Yeah, I quite like that one. I think it's a cool picture.
I've invested in a better zoom lens this time as well, because that was on just a 70 to 200. I've gone up to I think it's a 400 or a 600 now.
Oh,
so it should be a bit better.
If you can control it better than I can control a laptop, then you're
so that is the lizard. So that's the again, you can see on the left, I just took that one. That is how much humidity the camera was dealing with. You can just see why it wrecked it in an older camera. It would just steam up the lenses, which I haven't really had to deal with that before. I'm going to have to think a bit more in the future about keeping stuff in sealer bags with silica gel or something like that. And then that one on the right is that lizard we saw on the treetop. So it's like a big old male, very dark.
You can see how big he is on the left.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a beast. That's a cool photo on the left. Oh, Indicus, even better on the right.
We're getting to both. I think both of those are Indicus, possibly.
Is it Indicus? Yeah, I knew from the start.
Yeah. Yeah. So all these, we didn't find any Indicus in Batanta. This was all in Waigeo. So these are all going to be Waigeo sort of locality Indicus. I don't know if they changed too much between Batanta.
You've got a video on your Instagram, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, there's loads on the Instagram. If you scroll back a bit.
Yeah, I think Waigeo. I say Waigeo, but is it I before the A? Either way, I'm illiterate.
Waigeo. I literally spoke to Nerdin yesterday and got him to send me a voice message, because I've been saying Waigeo, and I was like, I can't be going on a podcast. Yeah, I can't be going on a podcast and getting that wrong. So it's
at work. Just remember, it's not the Waigos from work. It's the
yes, I think that's where it's come from, actually. Yeah, Waigos. Waigeo.
Yeah, so I do think the problem is with Indicus, they change so much, even on the same island. Like, it's impossible. Oh wow, here we go. Indicus and katydids. I need to start breeding these.
Yeah, I tried. Not that species. I found them really hard, but I'm not an insect guy. I think you need to keep them quite clean. I know Julian, I think, had quite a big success with them.
Yeah, I've spoken to him about it, and I've spoken to Ben about it. I had some. I got like 20 nymphs, and my room on that day where it peaked at like 30 odd degrees. I lost 3 cockroach colonies. I lost my death heads, my orange heads, and there was another species that I lost. And I lost my jungle nymphs, stick insects, and katydids all in like one day.
Yeah, they're extremely temperamental. Of the most, I've kept like a spiders and stuff, but it seems they don't have like the same parameters as reptiles. It seems once you get too humid, too hot, it's just game over.
Yeah, mine died real quick. They didn't make it. That Indicus is stunning though, man. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
So these were all on one stretch of the river when we were going looking for bomi. There was like just mangroves either side with these branches going over. And I can't remember how many we saw. We saw a lot of them, 10 plus, all of different sizes. We found some juveniles as well. But pretty much all of them were on these overhanging branches, overhanging this small sort of river. That's one of those, like I said, the giant Malaysian katydid. I can't remember the Latin on them now.
Oh, thank you, Al, for next super chat. Do the hunters catch any blues or put back some? I think you said that they released all of the ones that you caught, didn't they?
Yeah. So typically anything they catch, they're going to keep and take back, and that's going to be exported to the pet trade. And then all the ones we caught, we released them. And then I just paid them the price of what they would get for the lizard, so they weren't losing out.
And so basically, I think what he's asking is, if you catch a really old one, would they still keep it?
Yeah, anything. Unfortunately, if they catch it, they're taking it basically. I mean, that's the other interesting thing I haven't brought up was the only pretty pressure on the macraei is for the pet trade. I don't know many other lizards. I'm sure there is quite a few, like the Williams eye blue geckos and stuff like that. That it is the pet trade that's fueling them taken from the wild. So apart from habitat destruction, that is the main pressure. So you can see why people are trying to conserve them, and we need to sort of put more of an effort into reducing that wild caught. I mean, you've literally got the option now of getting captive bred babies in the UK, Europe, and America. So you should really be looking at getting those captive bred babies before even going anywhere near wild caught ones. We pretty much, in my opinion, don't need to be taking. We definitely don't need to be taking as many from the wild, and if at all.
So were they quite flighty, or were they not too bad? Obviously, you're a distance away.
Yeah, we were in a boat literally right under them. Some of them would literally just stay there, and then a few would sort of slink off more into the forested areas. But then we come back on the boat, coming past the same tree, and they'd be back out basking. So they weren't too fussed. But those Indicus acted more like a lot of wild monitors do, like the ones I've seen in Australia. Well, they'll see you, either freeze or run off and then come back. You can go back 20, 30 minutes later and they're back to sort of the same sort of basking areas. I think the Indicus, because they're probably a bigger animal, have got to warm up a lot more than the tree monitors have. So they're sort of stuck having to bask a lot more than the tree monitors seem to.
I think they probably run slightly hotter as well. So
yeah, for sure.
Even more, yeah.
So that's a baby one on my left. Go to the left a bit more with your cursor. There you go. So that's just a juvenile Indicus there. We saw a couple of babies. They were actually always right around the water. The ones we saw anyway, in that sort of area. As you can see, that's the river behind it. And they were all sort of searching for food. Where the adults just obviously were out basking, they need to get the temperatures up a lot higher than obviously the juveniles do.
Yeah. It's a 6.00.
Yeah, that one on the right is probably one of the best ones that I didn't take. I didn't even know he was taking the picture, which is really a real nice surprise when he sent them. That's our captain of the boat, Alwi, took that one on his phone. It just captures the moment pretty well of the whole trip, really.
Yeah, it's nice to look back on. Obviously, it's nice to look back on photos you've taken. Oh, there you go. We're at the end. Yeah. It's nice to look back on photos that obviously you've taken, but like that encapsulates what you've come to do.
Yeah. Usually, Alicia's there taking those sort of shots on her phone when she's bored, sat on some rocks in Australia. So I was pretty happy when I had someone else taking those sort of shots. Like I said, they sort of capture the moment so well. With the hunters probably thinking, "What is this guy doing?" And then sort of the nerding and the macraei there.
thank you for the amazing trip. Looks like it was an amazing trip. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. Thank you for the super dragons. We are encroaching in the 3 hour mark, and normally I ask people if there's a time limit before, and I haven't asked you. So, is there a time limit for yourself? Because obviously we're on the same time.
Yeah, we should probably wrap up. I've got Alicia next door. She's got work in the morning. I've got work in the morning. So
no, it's fine. Fees.
I'll come. Yeah, we can't do a 4 or 5. We're not going to break any records on your 4 or 5 hour podcast. Well, hopefully it was good content anyway for you guys. Like I said, it'd be nice to come back on and do the Australia stuff. There's loads more of that.
You didn't find Hemi, did you?
No comment.
Okay. Any final questions now, everybody? Drop them in because we are going to start wrapping up. But yeah, mate, thank you so much for coming on and sharing. I really appreciate spending the time with me because I know, like you say, you've got to be up early and keep the missus up, and I'm keeping my missus up. So
like you said, I was super nervous before coming on, and then once you start talking about lizards, it goes quick, doesn't it? So
yeah, don't worry, guys. We're gonna get Chris back on. We'll do at least we'll put it to the ethos now. Round 2, herp in Australia. Round 3, keeping captives.
We didn't even touch on any of that. That would be like I said in a whole nother podcast. We managed not to talk too much about Mitchell, which probably you're itching to ask, but yeah, we'll come back and do that one for sure.
Mate, I'll be 100% honest with you, right? And this is public, so I can't even go back on it. I don't know what I want more, Beckerai or Mitchellai. I just don't know what I want more.
Yeah, they're super hard to put against each other as well because they're both extremely awesome. Then they just do. Like the black tree monitors are so underrated. It's ridiculous. They've got totally different personalities. Obviously, if you're not into black, they're not as pretty as as some of the other ones, but they do act completely differently. They've all got their own nuances. They are sort of similar in their own ways, but the blacks are a bit different. And then the Mitchellai are like unlike anything else I've ever kept. They're nothing like any ordinary because you've got that aquatic sort of side in a small monitor. It's pretty cool. It's a hard decision. Yeah, it's a super hard decision.
My favourite colours of animals are in order: black, then green. So Beckerai Prasinus. Obviously, my dear friend Matt and your friend Matt. He's collecting all the tree monitors as well as Mitchellai. So when I went to his place, last time I went to his place, not the time I just went, the time before, I was like, oh my God, the black trees, oh my God, the black trees. And this time I went recently, I was like, oh my God, forget the black trees, Mitchellai.